Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Chair of the Board of Directors of the USGBC Los Angeles, USGBC Advisory Council Member, and Senior Vice President of Sustainability for Kilroy Realty Corporation, SARA Neff.
Thank you guys so much for being in our awesome city. Welcome to the City of Angels. Welcome to Greenbuild. We are so excited. We in the Los Angeles chapter have been working hard for a year to bring this event to our city. We are so excited to have you. And I'm so honored to be kicking off the Sustainable Community Summit. So, before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing to strengthen our sustainable communities in Los Angeles. LA is a large chapter. We are the largest of the USGBC chapters. We are super strong. We've quadrupled our membership since 2010, which I'm pretty proud of. You may clap. Thank you. And the programs that we are really proud of in terms of our sustainable communities are our Green Janitors program. We've been incubating this in Los Angeles for 7 years. The program is now live. This is 30 hours of training for green building janitors to help them understand and empower them about green building practices. They are empowered to identify leaks, turn off the lights, anything else that they're seeing. We've now graduated 655 janitors from that program, which represents 20% of the unionized market in LA. That is what market transformation looks like. We're really proud of it. Yeah. But we know that we don't get to incubate every good idea. So I think one of the themes of today is going to be partnerships. We are partnering with Urban Green, which is the New York chapter, to bring their awesome G-Pro training for contractors here to LA. We really want to make sure that all parts of our community are engaged in this process. We love our green schools. The Inland Empire branch joined us, and we got from them their fantastic indoor air quality program for schools. So we're starting to do those tests in schools to make sure our children are breathing great air. We have our awesome Green Apple Day of Service, which is like, let's be honest, the Green Apple 3 months of service, given how many projects we're doing. Those are going strong. And also, we now are doing our Career Pathways program, which is going to bring green building to the 800,000 students that go through the Los Angeles Community College system, which is fantastic. And also our Legacy project. So guys, this might be the first event for you, but the party started on Sunday. We kicked off our Legacy project, the ribbon cutting for Ecotech Makerspace, which is going to bring STEM opportunities to not one, not two, but 5 Title I schools in Los Angeles. I wish you could have seen the kids there. They're so excited. This 7th grader who had gotten so into the 3D printer, he was super stoked about it. It was an amazing experience. And just because we do not just do anything small in Los Angeles, we did a second secret legacy project we didn't even tell anybody about, which is a farm pod. It's modular community urban agriculture learning. We're super excited to talk about that too later on. And I also want to talk about resilience. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we have these things called earthquakes. Here in LA, we have some heat, we have some desert, we have some weathers. We care about resilience. And what is resilience? Resilience is any building's, any community's ability to stay strong in the fakes of shocks and stressors. We in Los Angeles have incubated the first resilience guide for existing buildings. This is going to help us think holistically about community engagement, how buildings can support communities, how communities support buildings. We are super excited to put it into practice. We have facilities that want to pilot it. We've been working with a nonprofit that came up out of the wake of our civil unrest, and they've made their guide so much better. We're helping them. I'm proud to say it launched at like midnight last night, so write it down, resilience.la. It is free. Please download it. We're super proud of it. And I also serve on the USGBC Advisory Council. And we are working on mobilizing partnerships to make sure that we are partnering with everybody in the green building movement that's going to help us. We are not going to do this alone. And we also want to work on moving the bulk of the market through. So we know we have the leaders on board, but how do we get everyone else? And the last, which transitions well into what we'll be talking about today, is social equity. On the Advisory Council really want to make sure that social equity is a deep deep focus of what we do at USGBC. The speakers in this program today are leaders, and they have shown how to identify and create the pathways to green building. Our motto is green buildings for all in a generation. The folks you're going to hear from are absolutely the experts in doing that. It's going to be fantastic to see what they've done. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Kimberly Lewis, who is the Senior Vice President of Community Advancement for USGBC, but I think of her as the voice of our movement. So Kimberly, it is an honor to be able to introduce you to the stage. Thank you.
We are family. I got all my sisters with me.
Hey family, how are you doing? Are we awake and ready? It's been a minute since we've been together. I want to thank Sarah Neff, who's so beautifully represented all the amazing things that are happening in this region. Can we give her a whoop whoop? All right. And is Dominique in the house? I want to acknowledge the hardest working executive director, one of the many leaders in our chapter movement here at USGBC. But she has been the single person, along with her support team, and helping to bring this conference from our hometown, Washington, D.C., last year in 2015, to representing and bringing all the volunteers together so that we can host an amazing conference on the West Coast. So can you help me give Dominique a hand? And all the volunteers and leaders of USGBC LA, as Sarah herself just acknowledged. At this time, I am so pleased to introduce my colleague, Sarah Alexander, here at the USGBC. I've teased her away from the certification work zone, from all the other summits that are going on, because she has got some exciting news. For a very long time, we have been leaders in doing a wonderful job in cultivating and moving forward this commercial building office space. But I am just excited that she is heading up the vision and is going to give us just a sneak peek behind what's going to be happening to continue to flourish and grow our residential strategy and the work that's connected to Lead for Homes. So can you help me give a whoop whoop for Sarah Alexander as she comes forward to give you the message as we move forward for this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And there's a lot of Sarahs here today, so raise a hand if you're Sarah too, because it's a great name. So good morning, everyone. It is my very great pleasure to be here today and to join today's summit. And just as Sarah has said, and Kimberly, when we think about today, even though it's framed in terms of the built environment, what it's really about is our families. It's about my family, it's about your family, it's about your neighbor's family, and it's about keeping those people safe, secure, healthy, and able to prosper. Oh, here we go. I'll be challenged with the technology, so just bear with me. So as USGBC, as Sarah said, we have a strong vision of a sustainable environment within a generation, and doing that by transforming the places and communities and cities where we live, work, and play. The vision is simple. These spaces will regenerate and sustain the health and vitality of all life. It's important that when we use the term health, we aren't just talking about physical health. It's a much more holistic meaning. It's your complete physical, social, and mental state of well-being and of the ecosystem and the community that surrounds you. We're honored today to be joined by Dr. Mindy Fullilove, who will describe how a long history of urban policies have led to the current moment of division and inequality. To get to a sustainable future, she underscores the need to repair not just the fractured physical and social space of our own ecosystems, but how we think about them. And my two personal favorites from her periodic table of urban alchemy are CM, keep the whole city in mind, which is really don't just think about yourself, but think about others as well and how it all ties together. And then SS, show solidarity for all. And as a fellow avid gardener, I really love the analogy of root shock. So I'm a little bit better at gardening these days, but in the early days, I'd go out into my garden, I'd think, oh, let's just move that plant over here. And I would dig it up, and I would move it, and I'd wonder why a few weeks later it just wasn't looking very happy. And I think that's the analogy that just resonates. If you're going to do a change or a move, you have to be very careful how you do that. I know now with plants, you want to take as much of the earth around the rootstock as you can, you move it over, and then you have to tend it. You have to tend it, you have to support it for it to thrive. And that's the really crucial element. So everything we do at USGBC is related to this broader concept of health and wellness. Sorry, I went one too far. And every day we're striving for that safe, healthy, inclusive, smart, efficient, equitable, responsive, resilient, and above all, sustainable society. We believe that health and wellness is fundamental. It's a fundamental right. It is not a privilege. And we're focused on advancing and supporting human health all over the world through LEAD. One example is illustrated by the mission of our Centre for Green Schools, which is every child in a green school within this generation. And in support of this goal, and I can see a lot of people in the audience who work with our homes program, the residential market is a top priority for us. And it's part of my job to ensure that LEAD is accessible to all families and all homes. Now, a little fun fact about when I was hired at USGBC. So it was back in 2008, and I applied for a position with Lead for Homes. And I was offered a position with Lead for Homes. But the first day I arrived, I was moved over to the commercial rating systems. And it wasn't until 6 years later that they honored me by having certification for homes move into GBCI. So I think that's a pretty long onboarding process. We did it fairly thoroughly. But it's really exciting for myself, Megan, who's on my team, who's in the audience, to really start to work on the residential program. So how are we doing so far? Well, we have about 1 million registered units, of which about 250,000 are in the LEAD Homes program. More than 300,000 units are certified to LEAD. And of the about 100,000 of those that are certified to homes, about 36% are affordable housing. So it's a start, but it's not nearly enough. And as we discussed today in our breakout groups, and there's some really great sessions later on, we want to make LEAD accessible to all and growing that residential market, not just domestically, but on the global stage as well. And also, we know we need a renewed approach to applying and assimilating LEAD in all sectors of the market. We understand the need for multiple categories to meet the needs of the specifics of a broad array of project types in the residential sector. And we have the right products. That's the good news. And here on this slide, you can see 5 of those that are listed. So it works for all of these housing groups, whether it's single family, multifamily, affordable housing, senior living, or student housing, whether it's army barracks, LEAD works, which is great. But we need to do a better job of seamless integration. And in response to this, over the past year, we first focused on removing some of the barriers for our current LEAD Homes rating systems to allow our early adopters to continue to lead the market, while at the same time ensuring that new entrants are able to quickly and easily choose the certification path that best suits their need. For example, some of the changes we made in phase 1 of the evolution of the Homes rating system is going to be a simplified navigation tool built directly into LEAD Online. So that's coming soon, and look for that announcement with an article. It should happen within the next few weeks, within the next month. And additionally, one of the big ones here is we've removed the height restrictions for the LEAD Homes mid-rise multifamily model. And this was something that some of our existing providers had encouraged us to do, because what you've got here is just a delivery model. On the one hand, you have people going on site, doing on-site verification under homes. Under the commercial rating systems, it's all 100% documentation. We want to be able to provide you with the flexibility to choose the model that you want to do. So there are no more height restrictions for mid-rise. Any building that's 3 stories and above can use either mid-rise or new construction or core and shell, just as increasing that choice. And additionally, with a real focus on the international market, we've also been publishing some alternative compliance paths to make it easier to implement, more straightforward to implement homes in the international market. So no matter whether it's a new home, an existing home, we're going to have a single entry point and a single exit point. That's LEED certification. And it's part of the job of my team to ensure a simple, integrated delivery of those certification services to the residential sector around the world. And we can do that because we already have an incredible existing domestic network, and I can see some of you in the audience today. We can leverage them. We can leverage our global team of technical reviewers. And with that, we can provide the technical support. Contact us if you have a question. The technical support, the review, and the on-site verification services that are needed to deliver homes anywhere in the world. If you think that you're not going to be able to do it, just give us a call. We'll figure it out. We'll send somebody there, and you'll be fine. And also to remember that with some of the new standards that we're now certifying to, so think of the well building standard and sustainable sites, we're also able to deliver integrated certification service across these programs. And I think there's a session on Thursday afternoon called Expanding LEED. If you're not signed up for it, I suggest you do, because that's where we'll be talking about how we start tying all these programs together. And as some of you may know, we're also partnering with the International Finance Corporation, delivering their EDGE program in about 160 developing countries around the world. So the point of all that is that we have our traditional network with LEED, but now we're expanding our delivery partners. We're going to have partners delivering well. We're going to have partners who are delivering EDGE. And this just grows our network on the global stage. So we talked a little bit about phase one. That's what I would say we've just talked about. And please do look for those articles. I think the first one on the removal of the height restrictions for mid-rise is going to be announced on Monday, October the 10th, with the addenda, the next round of LEED addenda. But now let's touch on phase two. And phase two will be about broadening the pyramid. And this is really important, I know, to everybody in this room, especially when it comes to affordable housing. And we're so pleased to have Yen Trong, who leads Green for All, join us as one of our guest speakers today at lunchtime. And Green for All is a national initiative to build an inclusive green economy strong enough to lift people out of poverty. And she's received congressional, state, regional, and local awards for her work on behalf of low-income communities and communities of color. So for us at USGBC and GBCI, phase two is going to require a different approach and a different mindset, as well as, most importantly, the technology support to facilitate this transformation and to make it seamless. What you can expect from USGBC and GBCI moving forward with great vigor the remainder of this year and in 2017 is that renewed commitment to our residential market. That health of our families, the wellness of our families is just core to all of our DNA. As well as innovation and simplification of LEED Homes rating systems, that's going to empower all homeowners of all kinds to be able to live in a LEED certified home. So I'll close out. Yes, it's working. Let's not forget the one key element, and it's really about our families and being able to live in that green home that's a healthier home to live in. For your parents, your children, and for the generations to come. We know we can't do this alone, and as SARA so eloquently said, it requires partnerships. It takes a village. In this case, it's going to take a global village. To accomplish this vision, partnerships with allied community partners, with USGBC members and chapters, and volunteers who are all committed to advancing green building and sustainability around the world, whether it be local or federal incentives, whether it be preferential financing breaks or the green rewards loans offered by Fannie Mae, green valuations, integrating the Appraisal Institute's residential green and energy efficient form into our outputs, or recognizing equivalencies of local initiatives and other programs. It's through these partnerships that success lies. Partnerships with legislatures, such as our second guest speaker at lunchtime today, President pro tempore of the California State Senate, Kevin De Leon, whose legislation I think is incredibly exciting, who's creating the most ambitious renewable energy goals in the nation and the first of its kind retirement savings for low-income workers, and not least of all, a requirement that a quarter of all cap and trade revenue be spent in disadvantaged communities. If you're interested in what we've talked about today, there are other opportunities to hear about it this week. So I just want to do a quick plug for a couple of other sessions. Kimberly mentioned the Certification Work Zone, and if those of you haven't been there before, that's where we have our reviewers here at Greenbuild. They're upstairs in room 515, and the Work Zone is open from Wednesday through Friday, all day, and we have a couple of Meet the Expert sessions scheduled, and there are two for homes. One is at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and the second one is on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about what I've described today at the Residential Connect and Learn, and that's education session CA01 on Thursday at 10:15, when my colleague Megan Sparks will be diving a little bit deeper, and also we'll be having a little panel discussion with some V4 practitioners in the homes market. So if I can leave you with one takeaway. We've got our renewed commitment to homes. If you think it doesn't apply or you can't reach that goal in your area, you don't feel you can find the right support system, don't turn away. Pick up the phone, call us. Megan and I want to know. We want to be able to help you. We have the right people to support you. And also, if you're interested in being and joining our network of delivery partners, please reach out to us too. We really want to hear from you. It's only by growing this network locally, regionally, globally, you've heard that in the reverse order previously, that we can actually really make sure that LEAD is accessible and is delivered for all. Thank you.
Family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family.
I love to hear from our strong women in green. Are you in the house? All right, hear us war. So thank you, Sarah Alexander, for just giving us a sneak peek into our strategy and where we're moving in the residential market. But one thing we know when we talk about every story about a green building is a story about people first. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge all the hard work that our leaders have done, Jason Dunlow, Marge Anderson, Doug Widener, George Bandy, and helping us to evolve our governance structure so that now we have realized a more integrated and aligned community. Can I please have all of the staff across North America and your Market Leadership Advisory Board members, volunteers, and leaders, please stand because we want to acknowledge your hard work on behalf of the council. And I have them standing and continue to stand because this is a moment in time in which we come together to collaborate and share, but these are the council leaders. We want to be able to collaborate with our partners. We want you to know who we are, and I'm asking each of them, I know when you come to Greenbuild, you get with your buddies, but let's spread out, let's connect, and let's engage. Thank you again. USGBC's community motto is building leaders, building markets, measuring our mission impact. We are forming new partnerships with organizations locally who represent people and communities who have not traditionally been a part of the green building movement. Access and representation matters. Throughout this week, you will hear a continued message of our diligent focus in broadening the tent. What we know, what does not get measured, doesn't get done. USGBC is committed to deepening engagement with emerging markets, communities of low socioeconomic status by at least 20% over the next 5 years. That's just a baseline. I know some of our tier 1 markets, you're going to kill it and come back and say, Kimberly, we're at 60. We want to make all of this that we do every single day, that we engage in, within reach for all. Over the past few years, we focused on advancing social equity, as Sarah alluded to, in markets across the world through initiatives such as piloting our LEED social equity credits. We've been working to close out Project Haiti. You're going to hear more this week. Millions and millions of square foot advanced at the Green Apple Day of Service annually. And the Greenbuild Legacy Project that Sarah Neff spoke of often. We've had that since Greenbuild launched in 2002. And as we build this great city and bring communities together, we never want to leave here without leaving deep community impact and engagement. Our $10,000 went to create so much technology and innovative tools to support the youth there. We've got a laser cutter, a 3D printer, and over 15 computers that came from the call for proposals $25 charge fee. You guys thought we were just collecting money. All of that went to the Legacy Project. So we're going to continue to build that program, access, and continue to support local innovation for our youth. We are working to align locally to advance building health, efficiency, and environmental performance in sectors best suited to bring green building to those people and populations who can benefit the most. Our advanced campaigns target engagement with organizations related to affordable housing, as a minister of the gospel, the faith-based community, veterans, and others working in communities that traditionally don't have access to green building expertise and resources. I invite you to join us, and again tomorrow morning in session 814, I love my shameless plugs, to learn more about how to get involved in these advanced campaigns for 2017. As Sarah and others have said, partnership is the new leadership. We are understanding through all of the relationships that GBCI is bringing to us that we don't want this just to be about USGBC, and the work that each of our local chapter leaders and community advocates have done to really collaborate. We don't want to continue to support a fragmented market. The values and commitment of the EJ and the social justice community are the same. We all want to align. We want equitable, just, empowering, resilient communities. And so you're here today. USGBC's highest best value has been about convening. We've got this amazing partnership with Informa that's helping us to take this message globally through the Greenbuild platform so that we can take our infrastructure and deepen the strength and resources of our local communities and chapters. It's going to take all hands on deck so that we can move beyond an elite community, focusing on the top 20%, and figure out how to bring the other building infrastructures along. And as Sarah alluded to, great announcements that are going to be happening this week, but it begins through an energized people who are aligned in focus and message and will continue to carry the load for the council. We wouldn't be here without you, our volunteers and leaders. And I'm thankful and grateful that you're going to continue the passion and helping us to bring the all along as we continue this journey. I'd like to recognize another important partnership, Bank of America. They generously provided funding to the Affordable Green Neighborhoods Grant Program, allowing USGBC to provide 5 deserving projects with financial support as they pursue LEED for Neighborhood Development certification and venture to learn more about green building principles and practices. Would the representatives from these grants please stand and be recognized? Bank of America has also funded and made possible for individuals from all around the world to join us not only at today's summit, but at the Greenbuild Conference, our Greenbuild Scholarship Fund. With the 2016 Greenbuild Scholarship recipients, please stand and let's acknowledge them. These scholarship recipients come from all regions of the world and diverse backgrounds in academics, affordable housing, community development, youth engagement, and more. We welcome you to Greenbuild and to the USGBC family, and we hope this week will inspire you and equip you with tools that you can advance green building when you get back home to your hometown. Our last partnership I want to acknowledge and create a frame of reference is Building Design and Construction magazine, Scranton Gillette. Since 2008, they have been a partner of ours, and they have been an exhibitor at Greenbuild for just as long. This year, their exhibit is really, really special. And I say that every year, but it's really special. The Green Zone is a modular facility that demonstrates exceptional green building products and techniques. In 2014, Green Zone was donated to a local organization in New Orleans after Greenbuild. Last year, USGBC worked with our partners to identify a specific community-based organization in my hometown, Baltimore, whose work was used to advance USGBC's mission among underserved populations. Green Zone was donated to Parks and People Foundation as a Green Jobs Training Center seeking LEED certification. Again, this year, we've teamed up to find an organization in need, and with the help of USGBC LA, we are overjoyed that this year's Green Zone project was designed by HDR Architecture and constructed by Mods PDX of Portland, Oregon, as a green construction classroom for the incredible Compton Youth Build program. Will our partners from Green Zone and Compton Youth Build please stand? All right. We invite all of you to visit this project in the Expo Hall booth number 2101. It is truly a remarkable story, and then they will be taking the modular building over to the Compton site in the weeks ahead. And a shameless plug, is USGBC Boston in the house? Green Zone is heading its way for Greenbuild 2017. Anyone interested in collaborating and partner, all ideas are ready and on deck, John. Now, those of you who know me, I preached a sermon. I said I'd have 3 points. I had like 10. Sorry, I'm working on the next generation beyond what my dad has always preached. Like, my sermon's going to be 15 minutes today, and it's like 2 hours later, we're still talking. But in the end, it's been a great morning. The road to Greenbuild has been extensive in our planning and our movement to get here. But I want to cede this podium to just a powerhouse woman, Dr. Mindy Fullilove. We have been trying to get her for years. Our chapter from USGBC Pittsburgh spoke about the work that she's done there, our other advisory board members, and this woman, finally we got through and connected, and she was so easy. She's like, absolutely. But with the work and the journey that she's doing globally, regionally, and locally, that she would choose USGBC and this day to be here with all the work that she's doing. We are truly blessed to have her. She describes herself as an urban psychiatrist. Having been formally trained in psychiatry with a career dedicated to addressing urban problems such as AIDS, poverty, and socioeconomic factors which erode quality of life for people in low-status communities. She is a supporter of ending market and social fragmentation. Her message speaks for itself, so please help me give a warm Greenbuild USGBC community whoop whoop for Dr. Mindy Fullilove as she preaches the gospel for today.
Good morning, everybody. One of these is forward. Now, I think I have to go forward one more time. No, I have to go back. There we go. The goal of having greenhouses for everybody is important because our world, our globe is threatened by careless use of the abundance of the planet. But we cannot achieve that goal as only thinking about something about building materials. We can only achieve sustainability if we understand that humans and how we live together are the real fundamental infrastructure of sustainability on the planet. And so the issue that I want to talk to you about today is this problem of equity and how inequity is created in the United States. There are similar processes around the globe, but my work has been in the United States, so that's what I want to focus on. And so what I'd like to just start by saying is that as a social psychiatrist, what our research has shown is that community is the foundation of health. This is a photograph from Pittsburgh, where I've had the pleasure of working with many communities. And this is what community is about. It's about the capacity of people to work together and to be productive. Community is the source of joy. It's the source of problem solving. And it's the source of caretaking. Communities take care of the vulnerable, they raise children, they take care of the elderly. We don't do anything as individuals alone. We do it in families, but our families depend on our communities, as does every nation on earth depend on the communities that are part of it. And so I want to say this fundamentally, if we want to have a sustainable world, we have to have strong communities. So the problem is that communities get torn apart by many kinds of processes, including war and upheaval. Dr. Alexander Layton, who's one of the founders of social psychiatry, described what he called a continuum of disintegration on one end and integration, not integration in the sense of racial integration, but integration in the sense of strong social networks. And this is when we think about this continuum, what he said was, on one end, if you imagine disintegration, then the bonds among people have fallen apart. And instead of thinking, let me work together with my neighbors, people start to think, I've got to take care of myself. And it's only me that is of interest to me. At the other end, when there's strong integration in a community, people are thinking we will work together. And I see some heads nodding. You know the difference. What is an important distinction in times of disintegration and integration is that in conditions of disintegration, people no longer share sentiments. A sentiment is something like the flag of the nation. Do you love the flag? Do you want to salute the flag? Do you want to sing the anthem? Is that a shared sentiment among all the people in the nation? The collapse of shared sentiments is a symptom of a collapse of a shared way of life and of a shared solidarity. And when we don't have solidarity, we don't have anything. We don't have the capacity to say, let's take care of our infrastructure, because we've ceased caring about each other. And we don't usually think of bridges and tunnels as depending on intergroup relationships. But if you stop to think about it, if the people aren't together, the politicians aren't going to be together, and the bridges aren't going to get fixed. And that's how you get to the point in the United States where an extraordinary percentage of our bridges are in bad shape. So how does this happen? One of the most extraordinary artifacts in our nation are the 237 redlining maps that were created by the federal government in the 1930s. And this is the redlining map of Manhattan. The federal government sent people out into the field to survey the cities, and they were told to look for a number of factors. So this is a part of one of the survey forms. And what makes these survey forms so important and so horrifying is that what they are looking at is the presence or absence of what they literally called undesirable racial elements. And undesirable people were blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Jews, people who were born overseas. And they literally said that the rank of a neighborhood had to do with the presence or absence of undesirable people. So this neighborhood, as you can see, had no Negroes and no foreign-born, and it was given an A. And if you look at the trend of desirability, it's considered to be static. In this neighborhood, which also has a trend of desirability that's static, there's infiltration of less desirable inhabitants. This is extraordinary language to use for human beings who are looking for a home. This is what leads to the expression, "there goes the neighborhood." Because with that infiltration of undesirable elements, it gets a B rating. And because these ratings were tied to the mortgage system and the banking system, that meant that this area was less able to get money for buildings and for insurance because of the people who lived there. This is a neighborhood that had many Negroes. And the trend of desirability was rated as down. So what was this neighborhood? What did it look like? That's what it looked like. Do any of you look at that photograph and gasp with horror at the dreadful conditions? Nobody could live like that? Or do some of you, and particularly everybody in the room who's ever read Death and Life of Great American Cities, say, wow, that neighborhood is really lucky. They've got a lot of eyes on the street. If you imagine that photograph with white faces, would it be more beautiful? Would it have gotten a different rating? This is life in Harlem at that time, in the 1930s, when it was rated as undesirable because black people lived there and were raising families and had made community. And what did that mean? It meant that the money, the lifeblood of buildings, we all agree money is the lifeblood of buildings. They've got to be fixed. They've got to be repaired. They've got to have new roofs. They've got to have the bricks pointed. Those are not optional things, and that costs money. And if you can't get the money, the buildings fall apart. In the aftermath of that, what our studies have shown, what people explained to us happened in Harlem, was a long series of terrible policies, other terrible policies: urban renewal, deindustrialization, planned shrinkage, and currently gentrification among them, that tore apart the community not once, not twice, but many times. We did a household study looking at trauma, and you can see how the rates of trauma are much higher in Harlem than in national studies. Dr. Beverly Xavier Watkins looked at the decline of Harlem, the destabilization from 1950 to 1990, as these policies played out. And you can see, for example, that the number of two-parent families fell from 72% to 16% over the course of that period, that the population of Harlem fell dramatically, and that the number of people who were able to have jobs fell dramatically. This is the tearing apart of neighborhoods, of communities, under the influence of noxious policies voted for by our federal, state, and local governments. This community didn't fall apart because the people woke up one day and said, let's tear the neighborhood apart. It fell apart because urban renewal bulldozed huge parts of land, because deindustrialization ended the jobs, because planned shrinkage closed the fire stations. These are systematic oppression of poor people of color, of poor white working people, that goes on all across this nation, and that has been unrelenting for decades. Aubrey Murdoch, Molly Kaufman, and Havana Fisher have made a film about this called serial forced displacement called The Domino Effect, which you can find on Vimeo. And the the evolution of the shattering of community is what they tried to illustrate in the black circles at the bottom. Where do we arrive? This is where we arrive. This is Helen Stummer's photograph from Newark, New Jersey, which is called Hermione Taking Clothes Home to His Mother. And their home is the cardboard shack in this vacant lot in Newark, New Jersey. Under these kind of conditions, we can easily imagine a future in which the well-to-do live in LEED platinum and the poor live in cardboard shacks. And that is not a sustainable future. That is a disaster. Just to talk for a moment about the shattering of the social networks. There's a brilliant study that was done by Helen Stummer looking at people growing up in Pittsburgh. And she described 3 eras. Sims period 1 from 1930 to 1960 was characterized by the closeness of the neighborhood, that everybody had this we-ness. There was dense integration of social networks, such that all the adults were raising all the children. When you meet people in Pittsburgh who were raised in that era, they are truly, every single one of them, community people, community leaders. For me as a psychiatrist, I can tell that what they have internalized in their mind as relatedness are thousands of people, that they expect to be in relationship with thousands of people. Urban renewal and deindustrialization hit Pittsburgh very hard. The lower hill was bulldozed to create space for the civic arena. As you know, Pittsburgh deindustrialized catastrophically between 1970 and 1980. And things began to fall apart. So in Sims period 2, 1960 to 1980, people described to her, neighbors were no longer people you shared your life with because you knew their families, their churches, their work, and if they treated their neighbors well over time. Neighbors now were often strangers next door who were tied to the little block and no attachment to its inhabitants. But things got worse, and things continue to go downhill. So from 1980 to 2004, we entered this third period. When Shanika was a child, everybody cared about everybody back then. Now, everybody's for theirself. Now it's just, I'm scared for my boys now, because it's horrible now. You don't see kids outside just to play. Imagine that. We know that we have created America where kids can't go outside to just play. What kind of a nation can children not go outside to play? As one of my urbanism teachers said, the mark of a good city is that a 6-year-old child can take the bus. What American city would you trust your 6-year-old child on the bus? "2019 will mark 4 centuries since the first Africans arrived in Jamestown. And certainly in the Black experience has been punctuated by these horrors of policy that have created an unequal society. We set off to say in our Declaration of Independence as a nation, all men are created equal, but into the Constitution we wrote that slaves would be counted as 3/5 of a person. We have not resolved this fundamental contradiction. But what I want to stress is that slavery and Jim Crow are evident on their face as racial policies. But having created Jim Crow and having segregated the nation, anything we do in our cities is done on top of segregation. And therefore, all urban policies are implicitly racial policies. We don't have to say they're racist. They are racist, unless they in some way explicitly say how they will counter the underlying segregation. And so urban renewal is a racist policy. 75% of the people displaced by 2,500 urban renewal projects were people of color. I want to talk for a second about 2 of these later projects, mass incarceration and gentrification. In the tearing apart of communities, people work very hard to get themselves reorganized. That's what resilience is supposed to be about. You get knocked down, but you get back on your feet. But because of the status qualities of being convicted of a felony, and because of the ways in which mass incarceration falls disproportionately on communities of color, we have created an absolute obstacle to resilience, because those people cannot come home from prison having paid their debt to society and re-enter society as full citizens. They cannot get educational loans in many instances, they cannot vote in many instances, and therefore reintegration into society, the core of resilience, is denied not only to them, but to all of us. Because we all know that if you create a class of people who have no way to get jobs, no way to get education, no ways to get housing, what are they going to do? They're going to return to a life of crime. And who are they going to prey on? They're going to prey on the whole of society. And it's essential to talk about gentrification and what it's doing to our nation. In all maps of Chicago that looked at poverty in the whole course of the 20th century, since black immigration to Chicago around World War I, the South Side was one of the important concentrations of the population. And when you would look at any map, that's where the poverty would be. That's where the infant mortality would be. In these 5 maps, what I want to show is that that has changed. Geographers talk about this as the great inversion. So the first map is non-Hispanic whites, up here. And you see the green dots represent a gain in population, and the red dots represent a loss in population. White people are moving from the outer edges of the city and the suburbs into the center of the city. By contrast, non-Hispanic African Americans are moving from where they have been and moving to, if you see that, they're moving to the suburbs. The demolition of the housing projects on the south side of Chicago is at the core of this, but so are rising housing prices. And so the Department of Health published a set of maps looking at this current state, and you can see that where the high economic hardship is, it's not in the south side of Chicago. It's been moved to the west side of Chicago. Gentrification is the latest turn of the wheel of disruption. I want to return to the redlining map, because the redlining map has an inherent paradigm, which is that you invest money for white people in places that have restrictive covenants. That's what the government literally says in sending people out to the field to create these maps. And I challenge you to look around any city in America and show me where what we're doing is not exactly that. We have changed who's white. The Italians got to be white, the Jews got to be white, the Irish got to be white. But these things are fluid. Anybody could be white. I might be white. I might not be white, but it's very fluid. But we are putting money. The market is for new buildings for white people with restrictive covenants, not in the old sense, but in the new sense. You just can't afford to live there if that's not who you are. If you can look at a city and understand that we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, each turn of the wheel, we are disrupting communities. We are destroying the human infrastructure that makes our collective life possible. And yes, some people will make a profit, but that profit is going to come at the cost of civil society. It is literally tearing us apart. We know that in ecosystems, there's a point at which you have to say you can't fish anymore, and the fishermen have to go get another job. And there is a time in logging where you say you can't take any more trees. You can't. You can't take any more trees. You have to do something else for a living. And I think the time has come that we have to say to the real estate industry, you can't build any more buildings solely for rich people. We have to house the whole society in stable communities. Otherwise, it's the death of us all. what we need in order to be sustainable as a world, in order to make the decisions we have to make, in order to solve the problems that we have to solve, in order to be resilient, if that's our wish, is to be integrated, which means that we have to understand that there's one we. There's only one race, the human race. And any nonsense that says there's anything else is a delusion. As a psychiatrist, I promise you it's a delusion. And it's not taking us anywhere good. As John Donne said, and this, of course, is the poem for all ecologists, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Thank you.
I need another hand for Dr. Fullilove. That's what I'm talking about. You exposed the root, and now it is us to make sure the right ideas, the right conversations, the right messages, and collaborative efforts can take soil to the soil and grow, so that we can continue to create these healthy communities that we speak about. But it comes from the people in this room and the message that you take out of here so we can get it done. The table has been set. And now we're ready to move forward for a day of inspiring ideas, to hear, to go deep, to hear from experts throughout the day. We are moving to our breakout sessions. We'll be back here for lunchtime to hear from our partner Green for All and Senate Pro Tem here in California. And it's going to be an awesome closeout with the joint combined summit plenary with the International Water and, of course, the people of the movement all coming together. God bless. And I do want to acknowledge we have Dr. Fullilove here because of the vision of our volunteer leaders that make this summit happen. And I want to acknowledge our partnering organizations and those who represented those organizations to create the program for this day. Will the folks from NeighborWorks America, Enterprise Community Partners, Global Green, LISC, and HUD please stand? You all know who you are. Your name has been on here, but I want to acknowledge you for helping us set the stage and continue to move the programming forward for an awesome Greenbuild launch. And of course, we'll be asking you to come back next year. Folks, enjoy yourself. You got your marching orders. Breakout sessions will be beginning in a few minutes at 10:30, and we're looking for a vigorous day. Thank you. God bless.